Welcome back. As we near the midpoint of the reading journals, I've been using this Tumblr site to host my ideas, thoughts, and record my reflections on some of the reading assignments that have been due for the American College Student. Today I'd like to reflect on Vincent Tindo's Completing College, once again, this time specifically looking at chapters 6 and 7. Starting off with chapter 6, Tinto looks at some of the administrative actions that institutions can take to further student success and retention. He admits that retention efforts are greatly affected by state and federal governments. Funding from private foundations can often impact the type of programs that can or cannot be implemented. However, he says that there are certain things that administrators at each institution can do to personally affect student success and retention. He says first, they need to look at investing their resources wisely, and it's no surprise that he recommends looking first to the classroom, as he's often harped on the importance of academic success of students. To be able to know where your resources should be implemented, he says that there needs to be a constant, intentional effort of assessment. As an administrator here at Ball State has said, and he said pardon his language with it, but failing to use assessment to decide what directions to take your programs is like throwing crap against a wall and hoping that something sticks. Basically, assessment is crucial, especially when dealing with limited funding and resources. There needs to be a constant effort of data collection, whether that be the traditional survey method. The book talks about transcript analysis, which looks at maybe some of the reasons why students who have transferred, looking at their transcripts, where they may have been caught up. Sometimes students take and earn plenty of credit hours, but they were taking aimless classes and not really making any progress toward their degree. So looking back and seeing some of these problems that can get students caught up. However, Tinto says a lot of these methods are more reactive, and he said in the future institutions need to be looking at more proactive methods, whether that be using some of the early warning systems and new technology that can be used to provide and intervene with more academic support to students who may need that additional help. And he also introduces a new thing that I hadn't heard of, which is called momentum point analysis. He says this is beginning to be used actually more in the state of Indiana. It's basically identifying some crucial milestones in the undergraduate experience, whether that be the accumulation of a certain number of credits, or maybe some key entry-level courses that may hang some students up in certain areas, and using this data to structure the curriculum in a sequential order, building one class on top of the other to basically springboard students on and make progress throughout their first and second years in college to be able to build upon each course. Moving forward, Tinto discusses the importance of not only looking where to plug in institutional resources and what programs to initiate, but also developing a plan on how to sustain these successful programs. He says too often programs fade away after a few years, whether or not they're successful. Maybe an administrator in charge of running the program leaves the institution. Maybe there's a lack of assessment and it's therefore tough to prove the contributions the program has made to student success. For whatever reason, programs have a tendency to fade away after a few years and not really sustain or amplify and grow to become a central part of the institution. He says the result of these short-lived programs is skepticism among administrators and faculty on really the importance and really the contributions that these programs make, and therefore their skepticism leads to a lack of willingness to be involved with such programs, maybe a lack of willingness to fund these initiatives. So Tinto suggests there needs to be some sort of incentive to get faculty and administrators on board. The current tenure or research focus on research, especially at large institutions, is counterintuitive to getting faculty to invest more of their time in the classroom or focusing on student learning, when really their main path towards promotion and career success is through their own research and publishing. So he says there needs to be more of an emphasis on faculty development. A lot of times faculty members do not have time to really get involved with teaching seminars, learning methodologies, and as a result, they're the only teaching body in the American educational system that doesn't effectively know how to teach their students. Early education teachers, secondary education teachers, all well prepared through their studies on how to effectively get through to students. Oftentimes this is the opposite at the college level, which is a shame. Again, Tinto recommends maybe offering some salary bonuses or other financial incentives to get these faculty members more involved and willing to participate in faculty development programs. But when I read this, I thought that's probably unlikely at this time point, because funds are so scarce in post-secondary education. So this is really an area I see becoming a focus in the next 5 to 10 years, is finding a way that we can improve faculty teaching with a limited budget. Finally, Tinto discusses the timing of academic action, the timing of a program. Where should a program be implemented in relation to a student's undergraduate experience? As you would expect, Tinto again harps on the importance of the first year, saying that a lot of the things that are done at large institutions, as far as large lecture halls, little interaction in classes, these are actually counterintuitive to what should be happening in the first year, where we embed academic services within first year seminars, maybe even learning communities, and integrate these services early and often and get students on the right track. While the first year, he admits, is the most important year for undergraduates as far as retention is concerned, he said this also moves on past the first year. He says 50 to 60% of students at four-year colleges change their major at least once during their undergraduate experience. Because of this, advising is becoming very focused on the second year as well. A lot of students are beginning to partake in what Tinto describes as swirling, which is taking classes at multiple institutions. I know this is something that I did myself as an undergraduate. I took some online courses at a college in my hometown and transferred those over. And it's very important to have a helpful advisor in this process to let you know how to go about transferring these credits in, and to let you know if this in fact is a class that will apply towards your progress at your institution. He talks a lot about, Tinto discusses the alignment of programs. On page 106, he says, the degree that students perceive a first-year initiative as merely an add-on, whether it be a freshman seminar or some other program, they will tend to discount its value and therefore invest little energy in it, especially if it does not yield credits toward the completion of a program or degree. And I thought that statement is so true. If student affairs professionals continue to try and make programs that are completely unrelated to academic coursework, students are not going to be as willing to participate in these programs. There needs to be an incentive for them as well. It's something we've talked about a lot. And we need to remove the barriers such as the ambiguity that a lot of times happens during registration, prerequisites being required of classes after the course that they're prereqs for. Often those are things that an institution can control, and there's really no excuse for that. for putting those barriers up to student progression when that's something that can easily be fixed by an institution. So overall, I think Tinto has some practical and very straightforward recommendations in Chapter 6 that institutions can all take part in. And there's really nothing profound in this chapter, but all very good advice that I think at the institutional level can affect student success. And last but not least, we have Tinto's Chapter 7, which is more of a reflection or a summary of some of the topics he discussed throughout his book. And for that reason, I kind of just wanted to discuss some of the prominent themes or quotes that I saw in this chapter that were worth covering again. So we start off here on page 115, where talking about faculty development and using incentives to encourage faculty members to become involved in things not necessarily directly tied to the classroom. He says that rewards and incentives must be measured not only in resources but also in time. And I think this really applies to the 2-year level with adjunct faculty who may be juggling multiple jobs or positions. For them, time is money. So in trying to encourage them to become more involved with student success, we need to look at ways to incentivize not only their check or bank account, but how we can provide this relief in terms of time management, and we really can't afford to waste their time or they're not going to be involved or intrigued to become involved. Time is very valuable, especially at the 2-year level. Let's see, here on page 118, Tinto says that many low economic students are beginning higher education without the requisite academic skills to succeed. And I think for any program or institution looking to improve student success, it's just a reality that one place to look is the K-12 system, which is playing a large role in bringing students to college who aren't necessarily prepared for what it takes to succeed in college. And there needs to be more of a collaboration or efforts moving forward between higher education in America and the K-12 system to prepare students adequately for student success. Finishing off the chapter, Tinto just gives a list of recommendations, kind of summarizing again some of the things he talked about throughout his book: aligning institutional action, providing academic support, using early warning systems, providing advising to new students and those who change their majors, investing in faculty development. A lot of things, again, that he's just summarizing, and I think it's a very practical way to finish off his plan and to summarize his 4 steps needed to improve student success. So that was basically the heart of Completing College by Tinto. I thought it overall was, maybe not the most engaging or entertaining read, but certainly a practical guide, which I think was his intention, to give administrators some basic knowledge and recommendations to improve student success, which is becoming huge in the role of higher education as funding is directly tied to graduating students on time. And a lot of the things mentioned throughout this book, including the examples he gives of certain institutions, can be very helpful.